Have you ever felt like you're living with a ghost, a presence that's there but not truly contributing to the shared life you envisioned? That's how I feel with my boyfriend, and it's turning our cozy little apartment into a battlefield of unspoken resentment. Despite our busy lives, where we both juggle demanding jobs, he seems to think the dishes clean themselves and laundry magically folds away. I've tried talking, hinting, even outright asking for help, but it feels like I'm speaking into a void. How did we get here, and more importantly, where do we go from here? I'm a 28-year-old woman working as a project manager in a fast-paced tech company. My boyfriend Tom is 30 and works in finance. We've been together for nearly 3 years and living together for about a year in this charming little apartment in the heart of the city. Initially, moving in felt like the next natural step in our relationship, a chance to build a life together, blending our routines and quirks into a harmonious daily rhythm. But that harmony has been elusive. When we first moved in, I was thrilled. We both have demanding jobs, yet I imagined us tackling the household chores as a team, sharing responsibilities equally, like the modern couple I thought we were. At first, I brushed off his lack of initiative as him adjusting to a new environment or just needing a gentle nudge. However, weeks turned into months, and the gentle nudges became outright requests. His obliviousness morphed into a palpable frustration on my end. I noticed myself growing resentful every time I washed the dishes or folded laundry alone after a long day. It felt like I was slipping into a role I never agreed to, one that seemed unfair and outdated. Initially, I rationalized his behavior, convincing myself that it was a phase or that he was just extra stressed with work. But as time passed, I couldn't help but wonder if there was more to it. My initial understanding slowly shifted to disappointment, and now I find myself at a crossroads, questioning how we navigate this impasse and if there's a way back to the partnership we both envisioned. As the weeks turned into months, the household chores continued to be a thorn in our relationship, but it wasn't until an unexpected event hit us that things took a more complicated turn. About 6 months ago, Tom's company announced a restructuring that led to some unexpected changes in his workload. His hours became even more unpredictable, and he started bringing work home more often. While I understood that the situation was beyond his control, it also meant that his contribution to our shared life decreased even further. At first, I tried to be supportive, taking on more around the house, thinking it was temporary. However, this change seemed to cement the unspoken expectation that I would handle all domestic responsibilities. It wasn't just the laundry piling up or dishes left undone. It was the silent assumption that I'd step up and take care of it all without question. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, I came home to find the kitchen in disarray, a stark reminder of our unbalanced load. Exhausted and on edge, I confronted Tom about the situation. His response caught me off guard. He didn't see a problem, insisting that he was simply too busy and that I should understand. This was the curveball I didn't expect. Tom genuinely seemed oblivious to how his lack of involvement was affecting me. His attitude triggered a mix of frustration and hurt, a realization that perhaps he took my efforts for granted. My patience, which had been worn thin over months, snapped. I found myself in a cycle of stress and resentment, feeling like I was juggling 2 full-time jobs, my actual work and managing our home. My emotional well-being started to fray as I struggled to balance everything. I felt trapped in a situation where I was constantly giving more without reciprocation, leading to sleepless nights filled with anxiety and self-doubt. Conversations with friends and family offered little solace. While they sympathized, the common refrain was that relationships often have these imbalances. Still, the advice did little to quell the growing storm of emotions inside me. I started questioning whether this was the dynamic I wanted in a long-term partner. This escalation, punctuated by Tom's obliviousness and increased workload, added layers of complexity to our relationship. It wasn't just about dishes or laundry anymore. It was about respect, partnership, and the vision of our shared future. The tension in our apartment was palpable, and I realized that something needed to change, but I had no idea where to start or how to fix what felt like a growing chasm between us. Determined to salvage what felt like a crumbling partnership, I decided to tackle the issue head-on. My first step was initiating a series of conversations with Tom, aiming for transparency and honesty about how I was feeling. I laid it all out: my growing resentment, the burden of unshared responsibilities, and the vision of a balanced partnership that seemed to be slipping away. Tom listened, but his responses often circled back to his work stress and time constraints. He acknowledged my feelings, yet his actions didn't reflect any significant change. I suggested we divide chores more fairly, perhaps even creating a schedule to ensure accountability. He agreed in theory, but in practice, the implementation was inconsistent at best. Seeking external perspectives, I turned to my circle of friends and even scoured online forums for advice. Many suggested counseling or relationship workshops to address the underlying issues. I proposed this to Tom, but he was hesitant, viewing it as an overreaction to what he saw as a minor issue. This reluctance felt like a roadblock, leaving me frustrated and with a sense of helplessness. As I was trying to navigate these challenges, life threw us another curveball. Tom was unexpectedly offered a promotion, which came with even more responsibilities and longer hours. While it was a professional victory for him, it felt like a setback for us. The timing couldn't have been worse, as it effectively nullified any progress we might have made in balancing our shared duties. The promotion also brought an unanticipated financial strain. Despite a salary increase, the additional expenses, like more business attire and the potential need for a cleaner, were not accounted for in our budget. This added financial stress made it difficult for us to even consider hiring outside help to ease the domestic workload. I tried coping by setting boundaries for my personal time, carving out moments of self-care amid the chaos. I also started keeping a journal, hoping that writing down my thoughts would provide clarity or at least a sense of relief. Yet the overwhelming sense of being unheard and unsupported lingered. Despite my efforts to tackle the situation from multiple angles, the combination of Tom's increasing work commitments and his reluctance to seek help left me feeling stuck. It was as if every step forward was met with another hurdle, and I began to wonder how many more curveballs I could handle before something had to give. The unresolved tension between Tom and me seeped into every aspect of my life, creating a ripple effect that I hadn't anticipated. Emotionally, I felt like I was riding a roller coaster. Moments of determination to fix things were quickly overshadowed by feelings of despair and frustration. The constant juggling act between my demanding job and the unbalanced domestic load left me perpetually exhausted. Socially, I began to withdraw. Invitations from friends to hang out or attend gatherings were often declined because I was too drained to put on a happy face. Even when I did manage to go out, I felt disconnected, preoccupied by the nagging issues at home. I envied my friends who seemed to have partners that shared their burdens, and that envy only deepened my sense of isolation. At work, my performance started to suffer. The stress from home was a constant presence, affecting my focus and productivity. I found myself making small mistakes that I never used to make, and the fear of underperforming added another layer of anxiety. I was caught in a cycle of stress that felt inescapable, and it began to erode my self-esteem. Our apartment, once a cozy haven, now felt like a battleground. Arguments with Tom became more frequent, often triggered by the smallest issues. A forgotten chore or a dismissive comment, each confrontation left me feeling more distant from him, as though we were slowly becoming strangers. I wrestled with a growing internal conflict. The desire to fight for our relationship clashed with the creeping doubt about our compatibility. The person I thought I knew and loved seemed to be slipping away, and I was left questioning my own judgment and decisions. This ongoing struggle took a toll on my mental health. Sleepless nights were spent replaying conversations and imagining different outcomes. The weight of unresolved issues pressed down on me, leading to moments of hopelessness where I doubted if things could ever improve. Despite the love that once bound us, the unresolved problem left me feeling trapped and alone. I craved a sense of partnership and equality, but the path to achieving it seemed obscured by obstacles that felt insurmountable. The emotional impact was profound, and each day became a battle to maintain some semblance of normalcy amid the chaos. As much as I tried to remain optimistic, the persistent imbalance and ongoing emotional strain began to overshadow the love that had initially drawn me to Tom. The realization that all my efforts seemed futile pushed me to a crossroads where I found myself contemplating drastic measures I had previously avoided even thinking about. The idea of breaking up or suggesting a separation loomed larger in my mind. It was a thought that terrified me, not just because of the emotional upheaval it would cause, but also because of the life we had built together. The idea of entangling our lives was daunting, filled with fears of loneliness and the social stigma of a failed relationship. Yet the alternative, continuing in a situation that felt increasingly unsustainable, was equally terrifying. I feared that staying might mean compromising my own happiness and well-being. The thought of living in a relationship devoid of the partnership I craved felt like a betrayal of the dreams I had for my future. I also considered other lifestyle changes, like moving out temporarily to gain some perspective. But this too was fraught with uncertainties about whether distance would bring clarity or simply drive a deeper wedge between us. The thought of taking such significant steps was overwhelming. I worried about the judgment of others, the whispers of "I told you so" from those who might have seen cracks before I did. More than that, I was afraid of the personal toll. What if I made the wrong decision and ended up regretting it? Caught between action and inaction, I felt paralyzed by the weight of potential consequences. The future seemed shrouded in fog, and each possible path carried its own risks and rewards. Despite the uncertainty, the one thing I knew was that something had to change. The status quo was no longer an option, and the time for difficult decisions was drawing near. Reflecting on this journey, I find myself at a crossroads, both emotionally exhausted and uncertain about the future. The love that once bound Tom and me now feels strained under the weight of unmet expectations and unresolved conflicts. It's as if I'm standing at the edge of a precipice, knowing I must leap but unsure of where I'll land. I'm reaching out to you, dear community, in hopes that someone might have walked a similar path and emerged stronger on the other side. Have any of you faced a similar imbalance in your relationship? How did you manage to navigate the storm, and what helped you find clarity amid chaos? I'm eager to hear if there's a perspective I haven't yet considered, a glimmer of hope that might light the way forward. At times, it feels like I'm just venting, trying to release the pent-up frustration that's been building over months. Yet there's a part of me that believes in the power of shared experiences, that somewhere within this vast network of stories, there's an answer or a piece of advice that could help. I remain hopeful despite the uncertainty, hopeful that this situation can be resolved, that Tom and I might rediscover the partnership we both envisioned. I'm open to suggestions, to the wisdom of those who have navigated the complexities of love and partnership. Thank you for listening and for any insights you might share. Your perspectives could be the guiding light I desperately need right now.